What if an appliance emergency didn't have to be? If your appliances suddenly decided they were done, don't stress. Best Buy has you covered with a wide variety of major appliances from trusted brands, in stock and available now. So you don't have to worry about laundry piling up, refilling the fridge, or that big dinner party you're hosting. Because Best Buy has the knowledge and expertise to get you the right appliance for your home. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Got a car to sell but no time to waste? Hop on to Carvana.com to get a real offer for your car in seconds. All you have to do is enter your license plate, answer a few quick questions, and if you accept the offer, Carvana will pay you as soon as you hand the keys over. They even offer same-day pickup in many cities. Save your time, score some cash, and sell your car the convenient way to Carvana. Pickup times vary. Fees may apply.
Welcome to Only Murders in the Building,
the official podcast.
Join me, Michael Cyril Creighton, as we go behind the scenes with some of the amazing actors, writers, and crew from season 5.
The audience should never stop suspecting anything.
How can you not be funny crawling around on a coffin? No, that's true.
Catch Only Murders in the Building official podcast, now streaming wherever you get your podcasts. And watch Only Murders in the Building, streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show, and with me right now I've got a very special guest. She is a professional wrestler, actress, and model, worked for WWE, TNA, and many other promotions. I'm pleased to welcome the one and only Shelly Martinez. Welcome, Shelly, to Wrestling with Heart.
Thank you so much. You know, I don't know about much about your show, so hearing that you focus on the charity part, dude, positive vibes to you on that, because there should be an awareness. Like, look, okay, charities out there, there's people that are very giving, especially if they have a platform, and that's really, really cool. I'm not dogging that. But I don't think that people really take the time to talk about these charities. You know what I mean? Like, they just don't. And so that's so freaking cool. So positive vibes to you and your show and moving forward and all your like, oh my gosh, like that should be talked about.
I appreciate it very much. We're trying to grow this show. We're now 3 years in, so we got a lot of stuff coming up soon that we're working on. So I appreciate all the support. Now, you grew up in California. Talk to me about your childhood and upbringing.
I represent Chino because that's where my grandma lived, right? And my grandma, I'm one of those Mexicans that, like, I consider my grandma my mom, even though she's my mom's mom. But, one of those, really tight with my grandma. So my grandma lived in Chino, California, which is in the 909 representing. And then my mom moved us at a very young age to Ontario, which is just the next city over. So it's still 909 representing, but different vibes. So it was interesting because my mom, of course, wanted better for me and my sister. I have a sister that's 9 years younger. And that's why her dream was to move to Ontario. Now, even though it's just the next city over, some people out there can relate that even just one city over is a big difference. And it really was, especially at that time. So it was interesting because I grew up, my mom was a single parent to 2 little girls, trying to stay in Ontario so they have a better life. Even though we lived in that big house, like a lot of times our utilities were getting cut off and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like my mom was hustling. And then my grandma's house, especially when my cousins got older, there's a lot of cholos there, Mexican gangsters, for those of you that don't know. And so there was this dichotomy between it. And then all along, I was always going to church. So for me, what always saved me out of darkness, no matter what, is my relationship with God. I just want to say that first and foremost. So I've always been that way. So it was these 3 different worlds I was trying to navigate. And it's so crazy because the skills I learned to survive and navigating that up until I went into the wrestling world prepared me for the wrestling world. So that's what's really a trip. Like, even though it sucked and there was like things like whatever, it showed me what's up and prepared me to be the carny that I am and I always have been, with or without the wrestling business. And it showed me all these different sides of the world, whether it was over there in Chino with grandma, or if it was over there in Ontario, but like seeing it in a real way, not in a privileged way. And then, you know, it was just a trip. And then, so that's why I always got to represent both, because even though that was grandma's house, I still grew up there and I was there and I learned about life.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you had, a hard childhood, trying to overcome so many things. And so, but you got that education at a young age and you start, seeing the world. And was wrestling always something you had watched as a kid, or did you get into it later?
So when I was like really young in the 80s, I remember seeing Cyndi Lauper on WWF. And it really captured me because to me, Cyndi Lauper was just one of my heroes at that time, for many different reasons. And so her role and how I didn't realize how she was playing it, but it's just how I was viewing her through that little girl's eyes. It made her even more of a hero to me because I was like, yes, growing up in that dysfunction and that toxic energy and surviving, I came out of it realizing I can only trust myself to get through life. I have no one to depend on, which leads to all sorts of different issues, right? So Cyndi Lauper represented to me, you don't give up, you keep fighting. And now she's over here in WWF and she's like beating ass. Like, it was crazy. So it took my Cyndi Lauper love to a different level because of her involvement with WWF. But my love for wrestling and what captured me the most, still in that vibe, was Glow back in the day. Because of living in that situation and trying to survive all the things that I was, the women in Glow made me feel like if they can do it, I can fight for myself. I can do this. And then when they started doing things like being on Married with Children or Roseanne, that showed me, because I've always loved show business, not only are they these wrestlers, but they go and they're on these shows, things that I want to do.
That mainstream crossover. And
yes,
having that representation is just so important because, like you said, you're inspired, you're motivated. Did you know when you're watching Cyndi Lauper on WWF television, WWE television, and Glow, was there a point where you were like, yes, I want to be in professional
okay, I said it
wrestling?
was a feeling. Here's the thing. It was a feeling that I know that I wanted to do what they were doing, especially because they were doing these crossovers, and I was always interested in doing everything. I don't know if you'll remember this, but in the early 2000s, Pamela Anderson had a show called VIP. I love it. I was on it. There was a lot of other wrestlers that have made little cameos or had bit parts on it. Just today, there was an episode that I watched and RVD is in it. And so I remember thinking to myself, see, this is nothing new. So when people are bitching on public platforms about, oh, off doing a movie and this and that, or they're upset that like the Hollywood scenes mingling with WWE or TNA or AEW, whatever the case is. It's nothing new. They always have been entangled. And I think people forget because there's like times that'll go that like maybe there's not much of obvious things. But then I thought about like back in those early 2000s, Stone Cold Steve Austin was on VIP. Victoria was on VIP and RVD was on VIP. Like when I was a nobody. I hadn't even entered the wrestling business yet. It was just before I entered it. So my point is, You have these spurts of when you have mainstream wrestling stars in wrestling, or excuse me, in Hollywood and doing things, but then you have these spurts where there no one is. And it annoys me that people throw the hate out there on it, because what enchanted me as that little girl was when Glow made that crossover, and they made it not only that, but it was an all woman roster. So for me, growing up, feeling like I had no voice and I was weak as a woman, it gave me that strength as that little girl, because I didn't have the strong role model there that I needed to survive all that. So I lived through Glow and the different characters to be that for me. That's why I wanted to do it.
Yeah, everybody's got to find that, when you find that audience, as long as you enjoy it and as long as other people enjoy it, even if some people may not, that's all that matters.
And I love that you're bringing this up, because fast forward to when I went into the wrestling business, people kind of treated me for the most part in the category of like a diva search girl, or like, oh, those Glow girls or whatever. They're mostly stunt girls. They're not even from the business. And it's so dumb, because so not every stunt person can go and put on a match, even if they have to go through it like step by step. To have the charisma that some of those Glow women had back in the day, they made it so believable. Like, so what if their background was that? What about when there's people that have backgrounds where like they were a football player and now they're a wrestler, or you have freaking Logan Paul, who is a famous YouTuber, and then now he's accepted over there. But why? Because he put the work in. So what's wrong with when these people, they're women that put the work in? Like, you have people from the Diva Search, like a Kelly Kelly or a Candice Michelle, or let's look at how Trish started. She wasn't started as, oh, this wrestler, whatever. She was treated like a Diva Search person before there was ever a Diva Search
model.
Right. So when you put the work in because you connected with the business, however it is, who cares what the journey was? If you put the work in, I don't care how you got your job, fine. There's even people that were born into the business, but they don't do well in the business because they don't want to put the work in. So it even goes that way. You can even be born into the business and you think, oh, they're going to have so much opportunities and da 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 da. But if they're not truly putting some work in, they're not going to go anywhere with it, except just be like, oh, you're just because of your last name. So it annoys me that there's this stigma, and I hope it's changed now, but I see things online and I'm like, I don't think it has, where it's like, so what your journey was getting into it. And for me, back in the early 2000s, I started in 2000. On the West Coast here in SoCal, the wrestling scene was very scarce. It wasn't common knowledge there was indie shows going on. It wasn't common knowledge that there was wrestling schools. I had to discover that because when I was doing my modeling and acting, I talked about how I wanted to be a wrestler. And so they're like, oh, we got this little part in this independent film. They used the local wrestlers and they rented that ring out from that school. So I picked their brain. I was like, how do I become a wrestler? Because I know I'm supposed to be a wrestler. And they're like, oh, you go to wrestling school and then you get your experience, and then you have your first match, and you have different matches. You put a tape together. That's how old I am. And then you send it on out to try to get other outside bookings. So it's like, you put the work in. I don't care how you do it. You put the work in, you should get the same respect. And it annoys me to know, and especially with the women, oh, she's just a Diva Search girl or da 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 da. And I put the work in. I was wrestling for 5 years before I got looked at. So I put 5 years of work in. And I feel to this day, get put in this box of like this. Oh, like when I've been around people, they like kind of look down their nose a little bit, even if they like me, they kind of still put me in that category of Shelly, she's just like the Diva Search. And that's why I got along with a lot of the Diva Search girls, because I was like, at least I feel comfortable with them. We're all being judged.
Well, I think nowadays you see more of a family atmosphere in terms of and camaraderie in terms of like wrestlers outside of the arenas outside, wrestlers outside the ring. You know, they're going out to eat or they're going to their hotel and they're commiserating and they're doing whatever they need to do. But it's like when you have those brothers or sisters that you're around and they look after each other. So um, I think that's a really amazing feeling. You know, even after, you know, their big run, you know, they still keep in touch with everyone and they still keep tabs with what's happening. So it's good to have that, I feel like. And
1000%. And when you're somebody that is no longer in the business, one of the things I feel people don't really talk about because it's very personal is, especially if I was in it for 17 years. And then you got some people who are in it even longer. Or even if you have someone that dedicated just even a year, that's like a part of yourself that you gave the business. And so it's really hard to adjust to like, who really am I if I'm not doing this anymore? And that's when you need those wrestling brothers and sisters. And one of the things that's been heartbreaking for me is a lot of people who I thought would always be there for me. As soon as I decided not to be in wrestling anymore, they kind of just stopped getting back to me. And it was a really hard pill to swallow. I bitch, moan, and complain online all the time about it because I'm sensitive like that. But the beauty behind it is not only did I have to learn how to get through all of that stuff myself, but me doing it myself and doing that work, life effortlessly reconnected me to the right brother sisters in wrestling. Maybe they're few and far between, but that's a solid group that throughout the years I had to get hurt by people kind of just being like, oh, whatever, or not even giving me the time of day. And then I would see them all online hanging out and I'd get jealous. I'd be like, why can't I be there? Like, why? Because, and it wasn't about a popularity thing. It was the wrestling business is such a own entity of its own, even though it's part of the entertainment business, that it's a mind F to deprogram yourself out of that bubble, out of that mindset, and try to be a civilian. Even if you still stay in the entertainment business one way or shape or form, it's still different, dude, than the acting world, than the podcast world, than the music world, comedy world, whatever. Wrestling is its own entity. And unless you have been in it, you don't truly understand. So it hurts and it sucks when you feel like you need your people to be like, I don't know how to feel right now because I've let this world go. But then the people that are my people, they got treated that same way. So that's why we come together because they're like, I know how it feels. So it works out, but man, it sucks. And I wish more people would talk about it. But again, it's a sensitive thing and it's very personal. But I have nothing to lose. I'm here to talk about it.
well, like you said, you'd been in the business now for 17 years and worked in major companies, got to be involved with different storylines. Want to spend a few minutes just to talk about some of those. What were some of your favorite memories and moments from your time in the industry?
Oh my goodness, there's just so many. Like I can't. Like what era? Like which one do you want? Because it's so many. Here's the thing. The beauty of my career is there's so many different eras of it because there was like the beginning and then there was when I just was doing lucha and then I got signed and I went to OVW and then I was Ariel and then I was Selena's and then I got pissed off and I like took a time off and then I came back and I was like this whole other character and then I went back into the indies and so it's like it's so hard to choose from that, so you got to pick an era.
Let's center it around your WWE and TNA because I know that's where a lot of our listeners and viewers are watching and they remember you from those days. So you were with Kevin Thorne and
I was
it was it was an incredible pairing, I think, between the vampires, and I know that they were going to bring in Gangrel as part of like a faction. Talk to me about that. That's pretty fascinating.
This is the fun story about who is me, right? So I get signed in 2005, right? I go and move my life from California to OVW. Tommy Dreamer was like, look, you're going to be there probably for like a week, and then you're going to debut on with this new brew that they're going to have with Gangrel, Kevin Thorne, and Jimmy Wang Yang. And I was like, because I've always been into vampires since I was a little girl and I saw the Lost Boys. So I was just like, dude, this is freaking awesome. Like, are you kidding me? So I get to OVW and I got there in July. So it was shortly after WrestleMania. And for those of you that don't pay attention, shortly after WrestleMania, that's when a lot of people get released because it has to do with their budget. So it's just business. I mean, I get it. There's some can argue, oh, they didn't want that person there, whatever. But at the end of the day, the black and white answer is it's numbers and it's all about budget. So they got to cut somebody. So I was at OVW for like a couple days, and Gangrel, Jimmy Wang Yang, and Kevin Seven was his name at the time, got released. So I was like, what the hell am I supposed to be doing now? Like, oh my gosh. So I did my whole run with OVW, which I'm really grateful for. That's when I got to work with Damian Sandow and Beth Phoenix. But the full circle was that June, Kevin Seven got his job back. ECW came back. They were hooked up with the Sci-Fi Network. From what I understand, the Sci-Fi Network wanted them to have sci-fi-esque characters. And so one of them was the vampire. So it worked out for me. So me and Kevin ended up being the vampires anyway. And it's so crazy because he got released on those like sweeps. So the whole year he was trying to get his job back. He got his job back. And we're the vampires anyway. So it's so cool that even though at the time it sucked, that's how it happened, because that's like we were so meant to be the vampires. Like Gangrel, he was already known. We already know he's the vampire. We were the new breed vampires. And I think it's such a cool like thing, dude. Like I just can't. Like it's like a movie. Who writes this? Like almost a year later, and that's just our fate, anyways.
It's just really a fascinating gimmick, to have vampires and darkness and all this kind of stuff like that comes with that. And you were also in TNA working with LAX. How did that come about?
Well, I got released from WWE, and that's when, of course, I was like, okay, well, TNA. And as soon as my no complete clause was over, I had gone to a pay-per-view, but like just was behind the scenes, kind of talking to them, whatever. And that's when they offered me, they were like, okay, we're going to have this women's thing. So we'd like you to do that, but we're not sure if we want you to manage the LAX team. So dress as if you were to be their manager, just so we can like see how it looks or whatever. And for me, here's another interesting thing. When I was in WWE, I was aerial. So I had my TV time. I was not worried for my job at all. When I would be in Kentucky, because I was still living there, when I would go to the gym, that's when I would watch TNA, because I was very unfamiliar with it, but it was on there in the cardio room. So I was like, okay, let's check it out. And some of my friends were on it. So I was like, okay, let's see what they're doing, support my friends. And that's when I first saw LAX, when Conan was with them. And I was like, dude, going back to earlier, what we're talking about, these are like my cousins. I get this. And so in my head, I was like, if something ever were to happen with WWE, I could see myself being with them, and this is how I would dress. This is how I would do my entrance. So while I was doing cardio as Ariel, not thinking I'm not like going to lose my job at all, confident in that my job at WWE, there was just something in me that was preparing, like how I would come out like this, and I just like whatever. And then lo and behold, I get fired. TNA's like, they have no idea that that's what I was doing. So I didn't pitch it. And then they're like, we're thinking of this. Let's try it out. And I was like, oh, this is going to happen. This is my auditions pretty much to see if I'm going to be with them. And so that's how it happened. And I was on a podcast yesterday and I was just talking about this. People get upset. They're like, oh, they get upset that Ariel was cut short, but it's like Ariel had to be cut short so that Selena's could be born. Because at that time, that's when the women's knockout division was at the beginning stages of really being like what it is. And I wouldn't trade that for the world, to experience and share the locker room and the different experiences I had during that era of TNA. Like, I learned so freaking much in the ring and outside of the ring and about myself that I wouldn't trade it for anything. So like, Ariel had to be sacrificed so that Selena's could be born.
Yeah, I mean, when one door closes, another one opens, and TNA at that point, I feel like really paved the way for the current state of women's wrestling, where you have a wide array of stars stacked, and I think it really helped usher in a new era for women's wrestling. So amazing, looking back at it almost 20 years later, and it's unbelievable. I want to switch gears and talk about some of the stuff you've done outside of wrestling, because I know that you're very passionate about animal rights and animal rescue. Let's talk about that. What made you want to get involved with that particular cause?
You know what? It goes back to VIP. So when I was on the set of VIP, I got to hang out with Pamela Anderson for a while. And my role was, they were recreating a scene where in real life, Pamela Anderson got an award from PETA, and they had this really awesome, like, big old party. They had like bands play, whatever. So um when they wanted to recreate this for her show, there was like some author chick that was like there, and that was who I was body doubling as. So I'm dancing next to Pamela Anderson. That's like my big scene. But the whole day I was talking to her, and I had the PETA shirt on. And at the time I was like, what's PETA? Like, what is, like, you hear about it, like, whatever. So she talked to me about the whole thing. So that's what got the first itch of like, I need to figure out more about this. Cause like, little Pammy here, she's making a lot of sense about this different stuff. So that's when I started doing more research. And back in the day, it was hard to do research like that. And what's really cool is, because of my WWE experience and being on TV in that way, and then continuing right after that to TNA, it aligned me to be around like different people that were pointing me in the right direction. And so it was so cool to get clicked up with different companies or photographers or whatever that worked in that industry. And they just connected me with all these people. And with connecting with that, I got all this information. And I was just like, dude, what? So that just like changed my world, my view. When I had two mini pinchers, Fred and Ethel Mertz, oh, God rest their souls, and I did buy them from a breeder. That was before I realized, you should adopt, don't shop. And so my dog I have now, Minnie, she's adopted, but I didn't realize it wasn't even just, that was like the beginning of it all. I didn't realize how it went to like, there was a time where I was like, you know what? I'm no longer eating a Kentucky Fried Chicken anymore. How they're killing these chickens is disgusting. Like, that's not cool. That's not what you're supposed to do. And so it was more than just dogs and like getting a dog. It turned into an awareness that went so far. Like, it so far that I am who I am today because of those seeds, man. So that's just what's up. Like,
Yeah. I mean, when you find something you're passionate about and love, I mean, if you really, really want to support it, I mean, you get involved, as much as possible. So, what can you tell me about anything recently or within the last few years have you done to help rescue animals?
so there was gnarly fires here in California. It was gnarly. And being a SoCaler, earthquakes and fires are like my anxiety, dude. Like, I just have such an anxiety of them because that's just what happens. Especially with the earthquakes, they're so unpredictable. So at least a fire, you can kind of prepare. But my first thought is always like the animals, like wildlife, like they're confused, like whatever, like, oh my gosh, like, come on. And then you think of the pet. Oh my gosh, it goes so far. So it bothers me so much when I think about the animals that when we had the whole fires here, I was like, how can I be a part of something? And what was really cool is Cameo, because I have a Cameo page. They offered to me, here's a list of different things that you can choose to be a charity. And I saw that there was some animal ones in there, and I picked one that was kind of local to me. And what's so cool about that is I was, donating all my Cameo to it, but I followed them, and then that inspired me to want to get involved. You know what I mean? Because up until then, I've done things here and there, but I kind of just haven't been able to dedicate as much time to that stuff as I was before. Because, man, me and the Mertzes, we used to do all kinds of things. And I have Minnie now, and she's a rescue, like I said. And it's like, how can me and Minnie go out there and help bring awareness to these different things? You know what I mean? Because again, I want to pay it forward, because what I learned on that set on VIP, like I said, that planted a seed in something. And it's like, who gets to do that? Me. Like, it was meant. And maybe I know one of the reasons why I was booked on that gig was for those conversations, to plant that seed, to fast forward. Who would have known social media is how it is now? So now I have this platform. I have people that I can help also educate or give a reminder to, or whatever. It's so, or come together. They're like, oh yes, like I'm right there with you. And there's that good energy. So yeah, dude, that's the long answer, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you seem like you are passionate about what you're doing, and you're paying it forward, and you really have, a goal and a desire to want to help, as much as possible, because animals, I can attest this myself. I have a dog, and whenever, they're sick, and so that you just, or see an animal that's just not in the best frame of mind, you want to be there for them as much as possible. And so kudos to you for being able to go out and doing that.
Not kudos to me, it's kudos to all the people out there doing all this stuff. I'm just trying to be the messenger. I am just trying to be the messenger so that people know, because I feel that's what the lost art of today is people don't talk and share, but we share on social media. So that's why I like really try my best to use those platforms for that. And, it's all about like animals, elderly, and children. Like, they're all like, they need our help.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my goodness. Don't get me started, but anyways.
Yeah, I mean, you just never know what people are going through, and the more of us that can make a difference in the world, the better. So, Shelly, I want to say thank you so much for coming on to Wrestling with Heart. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find out more about you on social media? I know you promoted your Cameo, so wherever people can check out what you're doing, feel free to plug.
It's super simple. Just go to shellymartinez.net/links. Everything's there. Nice and laid out for you. Everything's there.
All right. Thanks so much, Shelly, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Thank you so much. I hope I didn't I know I'm long-winded in my answers or whatever, but I don't know. You never know who's watching, so I like to try to help, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, and you're more than welcome to come back.
Please, let's do it again.
Yes, we'll do a part 2.
Yes, right. We have to.
We will. All
right.
Take care.
Bye.
This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.